I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. In this episode of the show,
you earn trust in little drops, but you lose it in buckets.
Hey.
Everybody really does love accountability. They just don't love being corrected in the wrong way. You're praising a fixed characteristic when you say you're so smart.
Yes.
The likelihood of them making unethical choices in difficult situations goes up by over 60%.
All right, guys, this is Chip Townsend back with the Team Chip Podcast. Again, I know I say it every week and people get tired of hearing it, but I'm just excited to be here, man. I love this stuff. So today I have a very unique and very special friend. His name is Mr. Jody Holland, and Mr. Jody Holland is a dynamic speaker, a leadership expert, team building expert. I'm just going to let him share about that because I'm not going to do it a service, but getting to spend time with him and be around him is an amazing experience. So I asked him and had the honor of getting him on the podcast today, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get some amazing nuggets. Jody, welcome, and thank you for being here, my friend.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. You and I have known each other since I think we met when we were both 19 years old.
Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure you kicked me into a wall or something like that.
So I'm sorry, man.
We were both in martial arts, just for the
Yes,
record. It wasn't at the mall or anything.
We weren't in a bar, right? Yeah. So, oh my gosh, that's so funny. So I guess I'll kind of dive in. I'm going to pull it up here so you guys can see it. Jody was the mastermind behind this and really drove this. I hope I'm not getting away from my mic too far, but this is Breakthrough Leadership, the Team Chip Method. It's a book. And if you look down here, Chip Townsend, Jody Holland, I probably should have had Jody's name on top because, again, he really was kind of the mastermind and drove that. But when you and I re-met around 2012-ish, I can't remember the time, but right around there, I had signed up through the Chamber of Commerce, a leadership event that was like an ongoing 9-month event. And you were the guest that came in to do like icebreakers and team building activities and stuff with us. And there were like 30 or 40 of us. So long story short, we sat in this big circle and you're like, we're going to do the truth or lie game. And basically the truth or lie was, you stand up and you tell the truth and you tell a lie and everybody has to guess. And I thought, oh, this is going to be kind of fun. And so Jody you said, I'll lead us off, right? And you get up there and you go, I'm pretty sure this is what you said. You said something like, 5 years ago, I took my family, we went snorkeling in the Bahamas, and did you tell this story? And then you go, like 12 years ago, whatever the time frame was, Chip Townsend kicked me in the head. And you just stopped and just stood there and looked at everybody. And everybody kind of like looks at you. And I think there might've been a couple of giggles. And I thought, this guy's nuts. He went snorkeling, right? Yeah. And everybody's like, oh man, you went snorkeling. And you went, actually, haven't been snorkeling. Chip kicked me one time. And I was like, I was a combo of excited, proud of myself, embarrassed, unsure what to say. I was like, oh my God.
So I was always very good at making people feel a little bit awkward because that was a point in a lot of the community leadership stuff. That's team building.
Right.
There's a psychological theory called the looking glass theory.
Right.
The looking glass theory states that we don't actually evaluate other people. We evaluate what we believe other people are thinking about us.
Yes.
And so we see it as a glass back to self. And part of how you get people to go through the stages of team development, which Tuckman's theory, 1965, the forming, storming, norming, performing, is you've got to get people out of their comfort zone.
Right.
And that's one of the ways to do that is the truth or lie thing. And we did a lot of other things too.
We did so many cool things. That's why I wanted to bring you on to chat a little bit about team building. But you're one of a few people, because I'm a pretty comfortable guy no matter what happens. I have normal fears and anxieties like everybody else, but I'm pretty calm, like, yeah. But as you told that and you said that, and I remember thinking, this guy was full of it. I don't remember this. I didn't remember it. And then we talked later and I'm like, oh my gosh. So anyway, good times. So you just, spewed off some interesting stuff already. So here's the thought. In the martial arts world, I think one of the things that we have the potential to do well and that we can do well is teach leadership. It's one of the things I don't care for in martial arts in a way is the hierarchical structure that we have. People can kind of be put on a pedestal because they have this rank, but I have always said, your rank, in my humble opinion, sorry, doesn't mean diddly squat. It's what's in your heart and your mind. It's who
Yeah,
you are. So anyway, I would love to kind of dig into some leadership concepts and thoughts, and some of your thoughts on that, and maybe throw some nuggets out there for, like, I say young, but any martial arts school owner or business operator, period, that needs to understand and develop leadership. Now, funny, I'm sorry, I don't mean to monopolize the time, but last night I was at a Christmas get together with one of the men from that. Actually, it was that mastermind group that I mentioned to you earlier. We have a mastermind group that I meet with weekly, and it's all business owners. And the guy owns a dry cleaning business and service here in town, and they started the business in the late 1970s. He's a much older man, and I thought this was really cool. His wife was an attorney and has quit practicing law years ago to come to work in their business. And he was asking my wife and I last night, "Is Chip a team player or not?" And Glenann said, "What do you mean a team player?" And he goes, "Well, does he share with his leaders or not share with his leaders? Does he have to spend time with them and talk to them and pour into them, basically?" And Glenann, which made me feel really good, said, "Oh my gosh, he goes above and beyond to pour into his team and share and have check-ins and meetings and all these things." So I just thought it was interesting because he said, "I've owned my business for so long, I'm stuck, I guess, kind of in the old ways. You know, I'll just get out of my way, I'll do it myself, do what I say, not what I do," some things like that.
yeah,
And this was so cool. He said, "I have a business coach now." And he said, "Just a while back, we were somewhere and they were working with us on this." So it was just a neat dynamic.
yeah.
But anyway, I'll just kind of
And
turn it over to you. And
a lot of that is that, people trying to get perspective, but I
right.
wanna hit something that you talked about just a minute ago about the
Yes.
hierarchical structure. I know this may sound silly, I guess, but growing up in martial arts, I started at 9 years old.
Right.
I liked the structure.
Right.
And I think you fast forward to where we are today with the generational changes that we've experienced, there's really only about 4 different ways that we give people authority over us.
Right.
Um, you typically will start with somebody has expertise or somebody has a title. That's 2 of the different ways. You go to the old school way, baby boomers and traditionalists, it was very much, well, I have a title, so I'm above you,
Right.
and you have lesser title, so you're below me. But
Right.
then you look at martial arts, that's an expertise model. Somebody like you that has, I don't know, 6th, 7th, 8th, ninth degree black belt, I don't know where
Right.
you're at now, versus me who has a 2nd degree black belt, I'm always going to defer to the expert. But I
Sure.
do the same in business. I have a master's in psychology, but if I'm working with somebody with a PhD in psychology, I'm gonna go, "Obviously, you know more about psychology than I do."
Right.
That's the automatic thing.
Right.
The 3rd piece of this, though, that you look at, like, I go into businesses and I coach executives and I do team building, I do training. That's contract authority. And somebody comes in and joins your school and they sign an agreement to be in the school, they're giving you contract
Right.
authority over them.
Right.
The one that matters the most is the one that you alluded to, and that's relationship.
Yes.
And you earn relationship authority. You typically start with one of the other 3, and you either earn relationship authority or you destroy relationship authority. And
Love
in
it.
the end, no matter where you started, it's really about where you end up as a
Right.
leader.
Right.
I I want the relationship. I want people to trust me, and I've always said that you earn trust in little drops, but you lose it in buckets.
Hey.
You work really hard, a drop at a time, to build that trust and to build those relationships, and it just takes one lie, one unethical move, one immoral move, and you've kicked the whole bucket over. And that's the part that I think leaders a lot of times struggle with is they don't want to be judged, but the more you move up, the more you're judged. I mean, it's not just good science. It's go back to biblical principles. It is better to not be a leader because you will always be judged more harshly.
Absolutely.
And so
Mhm.
you have to take that responsibility very seriously. And from a business standpoint, you have to adapt to your people and you have to always try to inspire what is the best that I can get out of them.
Right.
And
Right.
that's where you go back to Tuckman's theory, the forming, storming, norming, performing. In his original research, he said the majority of people will never make it past storming. You look
Right.
at Jim Collins' research, who wrote Good to Great and How the Mighty
Right.
Fall and that kind of stuff. Um, he said that most people never really get past dealing with conflict, because
Right.
conflict is such a big thing, and
Yes.
you tie in martial arts. Part of what martial arts taught me is that I didn't have to be right all the time, and that I wasn't right a lot. And Sang Cho, who was my original instructor here in the Panhandle, he was very good at correction and discussion. And so
Right.
you would get something wrong, and he wouldn't just yell at you, but he would go, "Let me explain why that's not working."
Yes.
And so he
Yes.
built that trust and that relationship to create that connection, and he spent the time forming the relationship, that first step. When I did it wrong, it wasn't about me, it was about the behavior. And he would describe
Mhm.
that, you focus on the behavior. And if you look at good behavioral modification, B.F. Skinner is the father of behavioral psychology. He described that you always have to address behavior and impact. And you
Right.
build the bridge with the feeling you have, like your own perspective about that person's behavior and how it impacted you and or the people around you.
Right.
What we do wrong a lot of times in conflict, though, as leaders, is we step straight into it and we go, I will make you.
Right.
Yeah, you will do what you are supposed to do. And so the submission piece of it, we're not okay with. And here's where I think
Exactly.
martial arts taught me the lesson is that even in a fight, you're sparring or you're in a tournament or whatever, it really isn't about submitting the person.
Mhm.
It's about learning the person and then learning how you adapt to that person in order to win the fight.
Right.
And
I
it
love it.
it was always a study when I was competing of I just wanted to study what people were doing. I wanted to learn the way they telegraphed and the way that they
Mhm.
had open spots and that kind of stuff. And that would give you the ability to score the points and win the tournament.
Right.
But the conflict is mostly internal. If
Right.
I can control me where I don't have to go, I will put them in their place or prove that I'm right or whatever, then I can solve the conflict pretty easy. Then
Right.
that moves you into, as you're moving up through the ranks, to the norming phase that he talked about, which is how do we figure out who's best at what? Breaking stuff was never my specialty.
Right.
I was really good at jump kicks. I had a really good vertical leap when I was more active in it. The older I get, the less that vertical leap thing works for me. But
Funny how that works, right?
yeah, you got to really stay focused on that. But that was always my thing is I could time things really good, and so I
Right.
would time my responses really good. That was my specialty, so that's
Right.
what I taught when I was assisting with the instruction.
Right.
You put people in a place where they can operate in their area of brilliance, and then you normalize the way things work. When you wake up and get to enjoy your job and what you get to do every day, that's the currency that we're looking for. And then that final piece, the performance stage, it was about accountability.
Right.
And I love accountability. And I think
Yes.
everybody really does love accountability. They just don't love being corrected in the wrong way. And
That's right.
accountability is 3 parts affirmation, 1 part correction. And that's what I think we also mess up in, especially in business, is we think, well, why should I have to tell them what they did right? They were just supposed to do that. Well, go back to behavioral modification. If you don't affirm what's right, they won't keep doing it. So let's say
That's right.
somebody is coming to work late and you have a conversation with them and they commit to come to work on time and then you don't ever say anything when they do.
Mhm.
Well, I guess it didn't matter. And they go back to being late. But if they start showing up on time and you have the conversation with them and you say, hey, when you chose to be here on time, I really appreciated it because it had this positive impact. When you confront or when you praise, it's behavior, feeling, impact.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in building simple frameworks for people.
Right.
That's the way that I've done really all of my leadership development is I go out of my way to simplify the complicated stuff. The people who are ego driven out there, they're going out of their way to complicate the simple things to make themselves look better.
Right.
Frameworks make it much easier, and that's why, like, when you're doing forms, you're learning the specific technique that simplifies when you need to use that technique in an actual engagement with another person,
Right.
what you're doing.
Right. Agreed. I love it. So I wanna kinda jump back a little bit. So whenever I said hierarchical structure in the beginning, just so that we're on the same page, I love the structure of martial arts, just not sometimes the assumed authority based on position. You know
Right.
what I mean? And martial artists can be some of the worst in assuming, well, I have these stripes, you must pay attention to me. When
Right.
in reality, like you said, we need to build some emotional equity and some relational connection and earn that
Yeah.
respect. And so that's really, really powerful.
And
Uh,
that's who you've definitely demonstrated yourself as a leader.
oh,
Like, it's
yes,
very clear when I've been around the rest of your black belt team that they have tremendous respect for you based on the relationship. It's
yes,
not a
sir.
fear-based respect, it is
Right.
true respect.
Yes, sir. And I am honored and appreciate that feedback. That is powerful because that's been a work in progress. Because like every other young martial artist moving into leadership in the beginning, it was kind of like, hey, I'm the leader here. You do what I say. It took me some time to learn those lessons and realize that's not the best way to get results out of someone or and really that sounded kind of bad results out of them. It's not the right way to build someone and build them
Yeah,
up and move them in the right direction, which is at the end of the day what our desire is, to build societal assets, people that go out there and
yeah,
aren't a liability, but they're an asset. They're pouring into the society themselves. So that's really powerful. You also you said something whenever you're talking about your original instructor that I thought really was powerful as well. It stood out to me, and I talk to my team about this all the time. Is we have to give a why. If I just walk up and say fix that, and there's no why attached to that, let me explain why. Let me show you why so that that can make sense. And now you understand there's really a reason you need to make that change. And I think that's so powerful. Take that time to put the why in there. Otherwise, you're just making empty corrections that people aren't necessarily going to always get and follow. Right.
exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. So you also said something. I was kind of taking notes here. I always learn so much when I'm with you. Uh, three parts affirmation and one part correction. You know, you were talking about making corrections with people. We've kind of dove off into the meat of the conversation here, but
Yeah,
uh, in the martial arts world, we do tons of correcting. You know, and I talked to my team about this. You know, we have 168 hours in a week, and we see these kids two, maybe three, and the ones that are super dedicated, maybe 5 or 6 hours
yeah,
out of 168. We have to enter into that relationship very cautiously because I can't just assume that for the whole hour they're here, I can spend my time correcting them.
right.
I have to affirm some things. I have to praise them in some areas that they do something right. So I'm kind of edifying what you say, and I love it. Uh, we have a concept called PCP, praise, correct, praise. And
Mhm.
so when you enter into that correction, find something, even if little Johnny's having a rough day, man, little Johnny, your hair is sharp today, but buddy,
Yeah,
I really need you to step up that effort a little bit on that punch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and then come back and repraise them as long as they made an effort to do that well. So it
yeah.
just kind of edifies. And I love that three parts affirmation, building that emotional equity. So you have the, I guess, kind of privilege and the honor of getting to make a correction and still be respected. Right.
Yeah, and a lot of times in business, the correction piece is, again, where they get stuck, 'cause they
Right.
wanna confront, so they go, "When you did this, I was frustrated because it had this outcome."
Right.
That's behavior, feeling, impact. Or, "When you did this, I knew you had more in you because I didn't see your full engagement in
Right.
that punch or in that form." You then ask a question, and this is where there's another theory that I love is called the locus of control.
Right.
And locus is Latin for location. So
Right.
it's either internal, I'm in control, or external, it's circumstances or others or whatever that's in control. So in this locus of control theory, the only way to get people to own responsibility for their next step is to use more of a Socratic, a question based
Yes.
process. So I asked the question, can you walk me through what happened there? The
Hmm.
mistake I think we make is we ask a defensive based question most of the time, like, "Why did you do that?"
Why? Yeah, exactly. I
And
love it.
the moment you go, "Why'd you do that?" You're gonna go, "What do you
Their
mean, why did
defenses,
I do that?"
you put them on their heels and their defenses come up, right?
Exactly, but if you
I
say, "Alright, so can you walk me through what happened there?" And you
yes.
can either just talk,
Yes.
and from a neurobiological structure, you're moving out of the limbic center where the
Yes.
emotions
Mhm.
are into
Yes.
the prefrontal cortex where
Yes.
logic is. Like,
Reasoning,
"Well,
right.
I did this, and then I did this, I did this, and I did this." And you go, "Okay, looking at what you just did, at what point could you have done it differently that would have gotten us the result we wanted?" So that's what's called the point of accountability. and it
Right.
establishes I own the choice I made.
Right.
And then the third piece and final piece is what will you put in place to make sure you get it right next time? And
Nice.
I tell a story about my oldest daughter when she was just first in gymnastics, and she was an amazing gymnast and a great cheerleader. And she's in her 20s and has a kid now, but
Right.
kind of like Lexi. Um, but you go into these meets and you just watch them and you go, how come everybody's getting a ribbon?
Right.
And my daughter walks off the floors, first meet she had been to, and there were 13 girls there, and she got 12th and got a ribbon. And I go, was next to last your goal? And my wife hit me. She's like, "You're gonna destroy your ego." No, 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 just give me a second. Was
Bear with
next
me.
to
Right.
last your goal? And she goes, "Well, no." And so, what place would you like to get? And this is where I think we've messed up on young people is
Right.
we just told them that they're great without them earning it, and they know that they're not great if they didn't put in effort. Like at a subconscious level, they know that that's not real. And she goes, "Well, I think I want third." All right. What do you think the 3rd place girl did in
Mhm.
between, the last meet and this one? What do you
Yes.
think she did that you didn't do? And I had her make a list of things and I wrote them all down. She stretched when she was supposed to. She did her exercises in between classes. She paid attention to her coaches. She had a good attitude. Like
Right.
these are all things she came up with, not
Right.
me.
Right.
So I write all those things down. I say, "Do you think if you did all of these things for the next 4 weeks before we go to Lubbock for the next meet, do you think you could move up?" She goes, "Oh, I know I can."
Nice.
But she did. She did all of those things, and she still didn't get 3rd. She ended up in 2nd, but I was still proud of her anyway.
What a great just second. Yeah.
Yeah. She was
So,
going for 3rd, screwed it up, made it past that.
made it past. That is so cool. So, yeah, I was as you're talking, I'm sitting there processing. Uh, I'm sure you've read these books and you may not have, but I'm sure you have, but, Carol Dweck, Mindset,
Oh, yeah.
and, Angela Duckworth, Grit, a
Oh, yeah.
couple of really good books that I've enjoyed a ton and really helped me to wrap my head around. But one of the things that, I believe it's, Carol Dweck talks about in that book is stop telling your kids they're smart. Stop
Mhm.
telling your kids that they're awesome. Stop telling. And so I read this years ago, and I think we already kind of inherently were on that same path because
Yeah.
I taught a lot already. And man, we shifted all of our instructors big time. Our language in the school is, man, I love the way you worked when you earned that. I love and that's another thing too that just kills me is whenever I just saw a friend the other day post something about, gave out rank belts on Friday night. And it's like, you didn't give out belts.
They earned them.
You you got the honor of presenting what they earned,
Mhm.
and like get your language right.
And it
But
does
man,
matter.
it
And,
oh yes.
Dweck talks about the fixed versus growth mindset, and what she
Yes,
was saying in there is, from a praise standpoint, if you just tell your kids that they're smart and they're good looking and all of that all the time, but you didn't say, "You've worked so hard to make good grades," you're praising a fixed characteristic when you say, "You're so
yes,
smart."
yes,
The problem with that, and her research shows that the likelihood of them making unethical choices in difficult situations goes up by over 60%
yes.
if you're praising fixed characteristics. So they will lie because it threatens their identity. And this goes all the way back to the 1960s to Dr. Carl Rogers with his self concept theory. We will do everything in our power to protect our concept of self.
Right.
But if the concept of self is I work hard, that's why I move forward, that's very different than I'm successful.
Yes, I am already good. Right.
Yeah,
Mhm. I
and
get
so
it.
she just I love those 2 books, and Duckworth's book, Understanding How People Become Elite Warriors, and
Yes,
her studies of special forces. The grit, what she described in there is it also almost never is the guy with the biggest muscles that
absolutely.
makes it through buds.
Mhm.
It is the guy with the best mindset or
That's
the
mine.
lady with the best mindset that makes it.
It's and that's where the word that grit fits so perfect. It's the guy with the grit. It's the guy willing to put up, work harder, not give up.
Yeah,
I love that stuff. So those 2 books were pretty impactful for us, in really encouraging our leaders to stop kudoing, "Oh, hey, you're
yeah,
so fast." "Oh, man, I love the way you ran fast because you were trying so hard," right?
Yeah,
Just
that
shifting that
becomes
language a
growth.
little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, and, one of the things that stuck out for me in the mindset book was when she talked about how these kids who were raised being told, "You're smart, you're awesome," all of these things, they never expect in their life to run up against something difficult because nothing to this point has been difficult yet. So then when they do, like you said, they're 60% more likely to make that unethical decision because they don't know how to handle a difficult situation because
yeah,
they don't understand that it was hard work that got them there, not just a natural talent. And so,
yeah. And I mean, again, the human mind protects itself,
yes,
and the concept of who you are resides within your mind. And if you're afraid that the concept of self is being threatened, you will go out of your way to overcome that.
right,
And I think that's important, whether you're talking about martial arts or you're talking about business, that our goal is to create a better concept of the individual based on effort creates outcome. And
right.
it's cause and effect principle.
Yes.
If you want to get in shape, you don't drive to the gym, you go exercise at the
At
gym.
the gym, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not the act of going to the gym that gets you there. It's what you do while you're at the gym that gets you in shape and allows you to be at that next level. So the person has to believe I've got to sacrifice in order to get there. And one of my favorite books is by Viktor Frankl. It's Man's Search for Meaning.
Love that book.
And kind of the simplification of it is people, purpose, and perspective.
Right.
Everything in our life is about finding the people that we want to be around, that we can serve, and that we can improve their lives. So it's not about them pouring into us, it's always about us pouring into them. That's why if you're depressed or if you're unhappy, if you go do something nice for other people, it is the best way to overcome depression.
Yes.
Second
Service.
thing is the purpose. And I think in business, our purpose is to solve an important problem. Money is a byproduct of being really good at solving that important problem. Martial arts solves multiple problems, but the primary problem I think it solves is it helps people see the better version of themselves.
Right.
And you're overcoming self-doubt, you're overcoming insecurities. In a lot of cases, you're overcoming the fear of other people hurting you, the being bullied. So you're creating this better image of self. And when that image gets up there, you don't have to prove it because you solve the problem. So I solve the problem helping people become the kind of leader that they would actually follow.
Nice.
And that's the purpose of my business. And then the perspective, this is the part that was interesting that Frankl talked about is the perspective is a redemptive perspective on the suffering that you face.
Mhm.
You have to see the struggle as valuable because of the outcome. If you don't see the other side of the struggle, if you're just struggling to struggle, it's you're eventually going to go, this doesn't make any sense. I don't want to do this anymore. Uh, so you look at those things, and I think in business, if you think that the purpose is money, your people will become very disengaged very quickly because they're not seeing the money.
Yes.
Some CEO is getting an extra $1,000,000 here or there, and people go, "Why do I care about that?"
Right.
But so for me, I have 2 mason jars, and I keep them on a shelf over there, and they have marbles in them.
Mhm.
And at the start of the year, I put 165 marbles in the start jar. And
Cool.
every day that I get to serve other people building up their leadership potential, I get to move a marble.
Nice.
So my entire goal system is to move 165 marbles so that I don't lose my marbles at the end of the year.
I've gotta know, where did the number 165 come from?
I just keep going up. The first year I did it, I did 120,
Nice. Nice.
and
So you just kind of
yeah, we
right.
actually blew way past the 165 this year.
Oh, that's
'Cause
so
there are
awesome.
days that I'll do 2 or 3 days worth of work for a company, and so
Right.
I'll go in and do an early morning shift, an afternoon, and an evening. I've got 3
Yes.
days of training I've done in a single day.
Nice. That is so powerful. So, as you were talking about, the people, purpose, and perspective, uh, you were saying if you're just in I think it was in the purpose piece, if you're just working for the money, without the purpose. one of the things that, I don't know if you're familiar, you may be with Dave Kovar. He's a good friend and kind of a
Mhm.
mentor. He's very big in the martial arts
Oh,
industry
yeah.
and kind of known as the teacher of teachers. But uh, we kind of stole from him one of some of our kind of grounding priorities in our school are we are martial artists first, we are teachers second, and then we're business people third. And I talked to the team about that and I say it's just logic. Like if we can demonstrate and do things in a way that inspires people, and then we can communicate and articulate that to every kind of learner possible and become great teachers, the second piece,
Mhm.
the business should take care of itself. If we're creating an experience for people they can't get anywhere else, the business piece will happen. And then all we have to do is just kind of guide the business some here and there, track the metrics, make sure it's staying on track and set goals, things like that, you know. And so, man, I love that
Yeah,
piece. I
and that
love the
ties in perfectly with Zig Ziglar's principle of be, do, have.
right.
You have to be the person you're supposed to be the martial artist,
Hmm.
and you have to do the teaching to build people up, then you will have the business success that you're looking for. But the money, the success, that's a yardstick to see, were you really good at solving the problem?
Yes.
I think there are companies that get there, make a lot of money, and then crash, and, one of my other authors I really like is a guy named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi,
Right.
and he
Yes.
wrote Flow, and he wrote Good Business. In
Yes.
the book Good Business, he showed 100% of the time when a business starts using unethical business practices, they end up crashing. Because the problem is we see this rapid spike in a 1 to 2 year window, but then 5 years down the road, the business is going away, they're not doing well. But also in 100% of the cases, if you are the kind of person you're supposed to be first, then you have a steady trajectory in
Right.
building the growth and success of your business. And that's a tortoise and the hare concept. It's you're always
Absolutely.
gonna be better off to do it right than you are to try to take the shortcuts.
Right. And I would add to that, I use the tortoise and the hare kind of as an analogy with my team all the time when I say, look, one of our kind of catchphrases, for lack of better words, that we put everywhere is consistency is key.
Yeah.
Just consistently doing the right thing, not just doing something, but doing the right thing day after day, over and over, you're gonna grow and you're gonna find success. That's
So
I love this.
so you think about what you've done with your school and how you've helped people. I read a lot. That's one
Yes,
of my
sir.
bookshelves right back there, and I have another
Right.
that covers that whole wall over there.
Nice.
Um, and I've read now around 1,300 books on business and leadership and stuff like
Right.
that. So you're always learning. It's not actually hard to read a lot. You just dedicate 30 minutes a day to it.
That's right.
So the same thing with martial arts. You want to be an incredible martial artist, do it every day for at least 30 minutes.
Right.
You will be
Absolutely.
leaps and bounds above everybody else just because
Day
you're consistent.
Yes, daily consistency, and another one that we throw a lot, and it sounds kinda cheap, I guess, but it's something that my mom kinda beat into my head is never let anybody outwork you. You know, if someone's beside you, never let them put in more sweat than you do. Never,
Yep.
uh I wanted to jump to something you were talking about with you're gonna have to say the name, the last author, Flow, Good Business.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, I've read Flow, I haven't read the other book, but, you know, you were talking about when people make poor moral character decisions, that's when the beginning of the crash happens, and 100% of the time things fail. It's one of the things I just had this conversation with some folks last night at this little Christmas gathering for this mastermind group, and you know, I said I believe that as martial artists, we have an absolute moral imperative on us to teach a correct code of ethics and a correct moral behavior
Mhm.
because there's a chance that this armbar or this strike or this choke I'm teaching you could take a life.
Yeah.
And you have to understand this is not something to be toyed with. And so I think that's another thing that separates martial arts from the world, and another thing that we should not be egotistical in, but take pride in. We really have to teach some character. We have to have conversations with these kids and these students about there's a right time and place. And this, in my honest opinion, if done well, martial arts done well, it's always a last resort. It's great for
Always.
building your confidence in your life, but it is not the first thing you resort to. We resort to a lot of verbal judo before we resort to our physical skills. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
And
that's
that's
good stuff.
one of the things Sanju Cho taught us was if you go to go back to their home country, you go back to Korea,
Right.
you're gonna see that martial arts was taught with philosophy, then physicality. And
Yes.
so you would spend all of your time learning the philosophical perspective, what you just described of the responsibility you have and the value that you bring, and really
Right.
it's the way you live your life. And everything I've ever seen about kung fu or any great martial art, they're learning the philosophy as much or more than they're learning the physical aspect of it.
Yes,
And
sir.
I've told people, they go, "What was your greatest classes that you took to be good in business?" Like martial arts. Eh,
Nice.
I
That's
have
so cool.
have a couple of college degrees, but I learned more in martial arts about perseverance, about service, about leadership,
Right.
even about followership
Right.
than I did in any of the college classes or any of the other books that I've read.
That's so powerful and such an honor doing what I do to get to hear you say that. And you mentioned followership. That's another thing that I kind of figuratively beat into my team is
Yeah.
people have to learn how to follow before they can ever learn how to lead.
Yes, they do.
And you have to learn how to follow well, and then eventually that follow kind of transitions itself into leadership, because when you're following well and the next follower behind you is not, they look at you and they begin to follow what you're doing, which now makes you it's like a vicious cycle. And that's so cool. I couldn't agree more. I tell school owners all the time, we have 6 schools basically, and I'm working to add another one, another affiliate for them, or affiliate locations where we license curriculum and I kind of work with them on their business and help them. But you know, I tell them all the time, we are so blessed because our business is so unique in that we get to provide f- a, a good physical outlet, and we
Mhm.
touch lives physically, mentally, and mindset. You were talking about in Korea, philosophy before physicality. I love that. And It's mindset. We're
Yeah,
teaching thinking. Where's your mind at? Your mind all the time, and keeping a positive mindset and frame of reference and thinking. So,
yeah.
we're so blessed to get to touch lives in the way that we do. We have such a unique opportunity to get people on the mat and create this fun, challenging, hard work experience that just truly grows them in such a unique way. So that's
Yeah.
cool to hear. Cool to hear your perspective, having seen how successful you've become and the things that you're doing. And I'm thankful that you had this foundation as well. It's so cool.
I am too. I really don't think I would be where I am had I not had martial arts throughout my life.
Right, right. Understood. Well, man, Jody, we've gone for a while and you have poured out some absolute gold, man. So a couple of things uh for a young, business owner, a young martial arts instructor, whatever, what would your words to him be around, you said for yourself, you've read over 1,300 books on business and leadership, but like how, encourage them and why it's so important that we study and grow and become leaders, not just managers. There's a time for both,
Sure.
but yeah, kind of speak to that a little bit.
I don't know if you ever read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell.
We require it for all of our instructor trainees. So we've read it for years. Absolutely love it.
The law of the lid is the reason I keep
Yes.
reading. And so the very first law in there is the law of the lid, and he
Right.
describes that you can't develop people beyond where you're at.
Mm,
And the way that I look at it from a business standpoint is if I just know a little bit more, I have a little bit more to offer others.
yes.
And so I'm continuously trying to grow myself so that there's something else of value that I can distill down and help other people with. And
Love that.
that's the main reason I do that. But from an encouragement standpoint, the consistency that you talked about earlier, that is the key to everything. And then I think the second most important key, if I was going to advise young entrepreneurs, is stop being afraid of failing. And my wife used to kind of make fun of me because when I competed until I was about 25 years old with
Right.
martial arts, and then started this business and kind of
Right.
went nuts with the travel, made it hard. But I said, there's just something amazing about that first hit you get to your face. And she's like, "You are so weird." I'm like, "I know, but it's like it wakes up that other self that's
Yes.
inside of you.
Yes.
And the advice that I give to people when they're trying to grow their business, you got to sell. There's no way around selling. You have to sell in order to grow a business. But the advice I just gave yesterday to a guy who's going into the coaching business, business coaching, is I said, your goal should be to fail 30 times in 30 days. You need some rejection therapy, is what you need. Because he's like, well, I keep wanting to get started and I want to make sure I get it all right so that I can actually get the clients. I'm like, a lot of people are going to tell you no. That's okay. And you think about the
Right.
number of times that as you were growing up in martial arts and knowing your story with Master Lim, how
Right.
many times did you get hit and you didn't block the kick or the punch?
Oh, I can't I lost count. I don't know if it's because my brain's not right anymore. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding. I lost count a long time
a
ago.
lot of bouncing. But you go, if you would have stopped the first time you got hit in the face, you would never be a martial artist.
Absolutely. 100%.
So with business, you can't stop because you failed. You have to fail as quickly as possible, learn your lesson, adapt, and overcome.
Love it.
And I have studied so many scientific perspectives on sales. And probably one of my favorite one, I know I'm way over time here, but one
You're
of my
good.
favorite one is a science called physiognomy. And I wrote
Yes.
a book on this, face reading.
Yes.
That is, it shows the structure of the human face. There's like 342 characteristics on the face that tell you who a person is,
Right.
like what they've been through in life. And I broke it down into the forehead tells me how people make decisions. The eyes and eyebrow area tell me how a person projects themselves into the world. The cheekbones and nose area tell me what insecurities a person has. The chin and mouth area tell me how they evaluate themselves, and the ears tell me how they learn and process information.
Right.
And by breaking it down into a simple format like that, I can walk in, and as soon as I meet the person that I'm presenting to, I adapt my style to
Mm.
that style of that person that correlates to even the way that I fought when I was in tournaments is I would study the person,
Mhm.
change my style. And I do the same thing now in business is I study the person and change my style. And
Nice.
by doing that, you're meeting the needs of that person. So very
Mhm.
simplistically, like if you look at chin and forehead, we tested 300 people on the disc profile,
Right.
took pictures of their face and tried to figure out, can we know their disc profile without ever testing them? So square chin, rounded forehead is a dominant person. Rounded
Right.
forehead, rounded chin is an influence. So the I in there.
Right.
The flat forehead and a rounded chin, that's going to be a steady individual, and a flat across forehead and a squared off chin, that's conscientious person. So you can walk
Interesting.
in and know from a presentation standpoint, if it's square and flat, I need to
Wow.
provide a lot of proof and a lot of detail.
Right.
If it is square and rounded, the dominant person, I think I may have said S wrong. S is flat, forehead, rounded chin, in case I did that wrong a while ago. But if they're an I need to be their friend. If they're an S, I need to give them time. If they're a D, I need to get to the bottom line.
Yes.
And
Hey,
all I need to do is adapt to who they are.
those D's have no patience, man.
No, they're the easiest to close though. Of all of them, you just go in and go, "Look, what you're doing right now has you in this situation. If you want a better situation, you're gonna have to do something different. I know the answer. If you want the answer, sign the contract, let's get
Mhm.
started."
I like it. I like
That's
it.
the whole close.
I like it. Well, you just
That
sold me because 'cause I'm pretty much a D. I remember when we were at that leadership thing, the Leadership Abilene event that we did, where you did the icebreakers, we did the disc survey then.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, you came to me at one point and you said, "I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone quite this high on the D." I was like, "I'm sorry,
Yeah, you're the
man."
gold standard, baby.
It was bad. It was bad. Man, so, when you were talking about the law of the lid while ago, you know, pour into yourself so you have more to give, raise your own lid, right?
Yeah,
I love that. Kind of made me think about this order priority thing that I talk about sometimes where my first priority is Jesus, it's God. My second priority is myself, and my third is my wife, kids, team, and kind of flows out from there. And sometimes that kind of surprises people, like you're number two, and I'm like, yeah, if I don't take the time to slow down and pour into myself, I can't serve my wife, I can't serve my kids and my
yeah,
team. So I
and
love, I
The
love that
biblical
concept.
perspective of remove before you remove the speck from your brother's eye, first remove the log from your own.
Love
I
that.
always took that as the same way you are describing there. If I'm not right, I don't have anything to offer.
Yes, sir.
If I'm not centered and have a good spiritual relationship with my God, and if I'm
Right.
not who I'm supposed to be, I can't love other people. You can't give what you don't have.
That's right.
So,
So powerful. All right, man. Well, I hate to cut us off, but
no, man, I enjoyed
Jody,
this. Thank you for letting me be on the podcast. I love what you do.
thank you.
And just my little last plug is that I wish I lived in Abilene sometimes so that I could get back into it. Because
Yes, sir.
yeah, you are the GOAT. You are the greatest of all time, and I
Oh,
brag about you all
oh,
the
thank
time,
you.
speak about you in events
Thank you.
of what a great person you are, and you're a great person, then a great martial artist.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that so much, and what an honor to have you on here. Jody, again, I follow your stuff. I was telling you before we started recording, I follow your videos, I follow your stuff, read your books, and I just absolutely love what you're doing as well. And it's fun that we came up just down the road from each other
Yeah.
and almost got to be buddies probably. But with that said, how can people get a hold of you? Because what you do is unbelievably powerful. So give us some ways that people can reach out if they want to touch base.
So easiest way is just go to jodyholland.com. It's Jody
Got
with
it.
a Y.
All right.
And all my stuff's on the website there, but any of the social media stuff they wanna follow, Facebook or Instagram or any of them, it's the Jody Holland is the tag, so just
Okay.
at the Jody Holland, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and I put out a lot of motivational videos and things that just kinda
Yes.
help people
Yes.
stay on track, a lot of leadership tips, so I'd love to have them do that, and if we can ever be of service to anyone, if we can move some of our marbles to help you guys become better, we'd love to do it.
I love it. Well, I can't recommend Mr. Jody enough. Jody, thank you for jumping on. What an honor. What a great time. What great nuggets. Have a great day and let's close out this year strong, man.
Thanks, Chip.
Yes, sir. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget subscribe, share, and or leave a review because we need you. We appreciate you so much, and without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success. So go out there and never be outworked.